House suggests some 6 million Americans have now signed up for private health care plans through healthcare.gov, though no word still on how many of those people have actually paid, nor how many had insurance prior to this law going into effect in the first place. While this so-called milestone is getting plenty of attention in the mainstream media, the administration announced yet another delay earlier this week in its program, and some folks in the mainstream media seem to have missed that piece of news. Brent Bizzell is president of the Media Research Center. He tracks these kinds of things. Brent, what'd you find?
We get some good numbers here. Megan, we looked at these numbers. Get this. Obamacare, one could argue, when you nationalize the 1/6 of the American economy, you're talking about the biggest domestic policy issue since arguably the New Deal of FDR. So what kind of coverage did the networks give this, the largest domestic policy issue in our lifetime? Between January 1st and March 24th, we looked at every single story on ABC, NBC, and CBS. Believe it or not, the total amount of time devoted by ABC, NBC, and CBS to this story was 0.72% of their airtime. Less than 0.75% of the airtime they spent reporting quote-unquote news was reporting on the results of Obamacare.
They were probably too busy reporting on the executive power grabs that had become so controversial during that time, Brent.
Exactly. They're too busy reporting on Benghazi. The numbers just get even better. We looked at between January and March 24th, that's 83 nights. In 83 nights' time, CBS gave that story 19 minutes. ABC gave the story 7 minutes. NBC News has given coverage of Obamacare and all its fiascos 5 minutes airtime since January 1st out of 83 nights in coverage.
So
this is what you call a cover-up.
In that analysis, it sounds like
we looked at more things.
It sounds like NBC News fares the worst. Would you say in general, I mean, do you have an opinion in general of those three networks, which one you feel is the most fair and which one you feel is the least fair?
Well, I don't think any of them are being fair at all. CBS is the least awful, but they're still awful. NBC is clearly the worst because it's not just MSNBC, but it's their little hit parade on MSNBC. And so you put those two together, and they're just awful. Think about this. February 8th, CBS News did something remarkable. It did a story about a family that's been hurt by Obamacare. Now, Megan, there are reported 5 million people who have lost their insurance because of Obamacare. Right. And that number, by the way, is not reported by anyone who reports this $6 million figure. But there are 5 million people who have lost their insurance. On February 8th, CBS did a story about a family that had lost its insurance. Why is this important? This is the only story all year that the networks have reported on the bad effects of Obamacare. Imagine that.
Brent, good to see you. Well, coming up, a law firm hired to investigate a